Hello all and welcome to Wow Crochet Designs. My name is Mary and in today's tutorial we are working on a little latch guy, take that undone, and a button for your little bag. Okay, now if you are joining us new, firstly welcome. Don't forget to subscribe. Yes, now we have a lot of fun on our channel. We also do lots and lots of crochet, as you can see. Parts 1 and 2, well, they weren't really parts 1 and 2. It was just part 1 was showing you how to make a granny square. The next time it showed you how to sew your pieces together and add a handle, and now we're popping on a little button and we are lining our bag. Now this one here is not lined, but it will be lined with the yellow ones complete. We're going to use the same concept as this one here. Now this one, as you can see, has longer handles. This one is a shorter handle version. Okay, so we made two different versions of the bag, and actual fact, I even changed the style of how I made the handles on the smaller one to how I made the handles on the larger one. All right, it doesn't matter, either way it was fine, and I've shown you two different ways on the channel anyways, but for now what we're going to do today is make a latch for this guy right here, and we're going to pop a little button right there. It's not going to be as long as this one, only because this is how much cotton I have left. So if you wanted a longer one like this, you would need a larger button. Now this is a little bit smaller than that, so you would need a larger button, right? If you make it too long, it's going to come out with your button, all right? But I'm going to do it a little smaller. Then we're going to add this lining to the bag and we will be done with our bag, and you can actually sell your bag at a market or give this away to your family and friends. Either way, it doesn't matter what you do with it, as long as you're happy with it, yeah? All right, in the meantime, we're going to tell you what we need. Obviously, you'll need a button. You'll need a couple of grams of the leftover yarn to make the little, I don't know what you want to call it, latch, flap sort of thing. You will need that 4mm hook. That is what we use to make our bag with. You will need some pins. You won't need that many pins. That's a little bit ridiculous, yeah? You may need just the big scissors that we're going to use to cut this, so you don't really need a small one. I use a small one just to cut the thread there. Yeah, whatever. You will need your cotton. Now if you are going to sew through your bag and your sewing needle, let's try that again. If you're going to sew through your bag and your thread can be seen, use a matching blue. Now this kind of blue is not really that matching anyway, it's a little too light. But if you're going to sew the way I'm going to sew today, where it's kind of like in but out, where you only pick up a few little layers of the yarn on one side rather than going through the whole bag, then you can use the pink with me. You will need a sewing needle, a nice thin one, because the thicker ones may not go through your cotton piece, yeah? And also you will need some cotton or whatever kind of material you're using. I'm using a light cotton. This is actually you buy them in the little blocks, and it's more for what's it called? Patchwork blankets. I couldn't get it out. So that's all that is. It's quite light and thin, but this is a fairly soft bag, and I didn't want to use a real thick, harsh one inside it. I wanted it to be nice and soft with the bag. So that's it, guys. I'm not going to talk anymore. I'm just going to let you get started creating your little button with the latch and the lining to your bag. Good luck all. Alrighty guys, I also forgot to mention you'll need a grey lead to mark your lining with, or you can use a sewing marker, whatever you've got in stock, and a stitch marker for this particular part of the tutorial, which is adding your little latch or your little flap or whatever you want to call it, yeah? Find the right side of your bag. Now the right side of your bag is the outside, obviously, but the actual, you're facing your work to you, and see the top of the chains, and you can see them all facing you. If you were to face it the other way, the top of the chains, they go downwards. That's the wrong side. And when they're facing you, that's the right side. So that is the right side of your bag, yeah? Now what you're going to do is flip it to the wrong side, yeah? Then you're going to face it upside down like this. Lift up the back of your bag. Let's get a close-up. You have This is where your handle is there. This is where your handle is there. You have in between 5 cluster sets. Now, if you've only got 4, you can pop your stitch marker in the center between 2 of your clusters, all right? But for me, I have 5. So what I want to do is find the 5th. Let's try that again. Find the middle cluster, which is 3. So 1, 2, and there's a 3rd one in the middle. And not just the middle cluster, we want to find the middle stitch. So that's the 1st stitch. That's your 3rd stitch, your middle stitch is right in there. Now, this is not a compulsory thing. The idea of doing the latch right there, it means it will be center of your bag. So if you want your latch popped on the left or the right or whatever you want, that's fine, but I'm popping mine in the center. And as you saw in this bag right here, it does look gorgeous, flat bang right in the center. Yeah, and again, that's differently made, so don't judge that one. Yeah, all right, but for now, all we're going to do is grab your 4mm crochet hook or whatever you use to create your whole bag, and just where you've popped your stitch marker, from the inside of your bag, you're going to pop your hook in that stitch. Yep, take out your stitch marker, grab your blue thread. I don't think I'm going to have enough for this, but still, we'll try it anyway, and pop your hook through and pop your loop on your hook, and just pull a loop through. I'm going to make my tail a little shorter. You guys make yours long, all right? You need it for weaving in purpose. I'm only making mine shorter because I don't have enough. Pass it forward just in front of you. Let me show you what I've done there. I just passed it in front of me. That's not only going to lock it in place, but it's going to keep it on the inside of the bag. Usually I lock it into place and then pass the thread back, but we're not going to do that because we want to keep it on the inside of the bag. Yeah, you're going to chain 1, tighten it up a little, and over all of that again, over your thread, you're going to do a single crochet. And a single crochet is pop your hook in the stitch, try that again, in the stitch, crocheting over your tail and doing your single crochet. All right, now we're going to chain. Now you can chain, it depends on the size of your button. If you don't have a big button, chain 3. If you have a medium-sized button, chain 5. If you have a larger button like that, chain 7. Now I'm going to chain 5 because this is a medium size. So chaining 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. If you wanted to do the larger one, you just chain 2 more. From here, you're going to chain another 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. If you're doing the larger one, you chain 6. If you're doing the smaller one, you chain 2. All right, I think that small one would probably be too small anyway, but there you go. Then you're going to single crochet right back in that stitch there, keeping your thread nice and still. You're holding on to everything so it doesn't move out of place. You pop your hook in the stitch, pull a loop through, holding everything nice and still. And then from here, you're going to yarn over your hook and just complete your single crochet, and what you have is that. Looks a little odd, that's okay. And make sure your tail is inside your bag. Yeah. And in the very next stitch there, you're going to do a slip stitch. So you pop your hook in the next stitch, pull a loop through, and pull it through to the loop on your hook. Yeah. Let's move that out the way. Turn your work. And you are now going to, let me show you close up, further away, sorry. You've turned your work this way. We've been working that way, you've turned it this way, yeah? We're now going to work along these stitches until we get to the top, right? Which, depending on how many stitches you did, we'll talk about that in a minute. So I've done 5 stitches up and then 4 stitches back. So really I've done 4 stitches up, 4 stitches back, and 1 in the center. Yeah, that's what we want. All right, so what we're going to do is first slip stitch into the single crochet that we first made, like so. And that was our very first single crochet that we just made. No, it wasn't. That was our last single crochet that we just made, not the first. And then we're going to slip stitch 4 stitches up. So find a loop for every stitch, pull a loop through like that, and pull it through to the loop on your hook. Now I'm going through both the loops, so 2 loops are on top, but you can have 1 loop on top, it doesn't matter, yeah? And you pull the loop through and pull it through again. That's twice. Now if you've chained 3, then that's where you need to stop there and wait for us. Now we're doing the third one, pull a loop through like so, and then we're doing a fourth one in there, pull a loop through like so. Now if you've done 7, you're chaining 2 more, so chain your 2 more. But for everyone now, once we've done our chains and we've got that middle chain left, we're going to go into the middle chain with a normal slip stitch. So pop your hook in, pull a loop through, and pull it through to the loop on your hook. Don't make that too tight. Now this is where it's entirely up to you what you want to do. We're going to make a picot through the slip stitch, which is a bit awkward. And now if you don't want to do a picot, all you need to do here is chain 3 and slip stitch back into the stitch that you are in. But for those of us who want to make a picot, that is chain 1, 2 and 3. Now you're going through the side loop, which is awkward for me even, the side loop of the stitch that you finished and the side loop of the base there. It is a little tricky. Again, you don't need to do a picot. It's really tight, but it's there. There it is. It's very tight. Now, if you don't want to do that, that's okay. Just chain 3 and slip stitch again, right? So you're pulling your loop through and you're pulling it through to the loop on your hook. It was a little awkward, but it does give you that pretty little ball looking thing on the edge, yeah? So, in your next 2 loops, whatever they are, or 1 loop, 1. All right, and now I've got that lot right there. That's the single crochet. We're going to slip stitch in that single crochet. Don't skip it, yeah? So you slip stitched in there. It still looks a little weird. You're going to slip stitch in the very next stitch right there. Pull a loop through, pull it through the loop like so. And what you want to do here, you can chain or pull up a loop if you like. No, you actually have to chain, pull up a loop, grab your scissors. Oh, my thread made it, which was good. I didn't think my thread was going to make it. Check it out. A little bit of yarn chicken right there. That's it. And that's literally yarn chicken. I don't have any more of this blue left. I would literally have to purchase some from Bendigo Woolen Mills. This is Bendigo Woolen Mills yarn. It's the soft 100% pure cotton here in Australia. Now you can use anything you like to make your bags, doesn't matter, but cotton is the best way to go. Now I'm using the wrong needle for this part because this is a sewing needle, but doesn't matter, it worked. It just means the eye's a bit small. So thread your needle, and all you're going to do before you thread, just pass your little guy forward, making sure that you have space to put your button. Because if you don't have space to put your button, that is not going to close for you. So make sure you have the space. And your button will go there in a minute, but before we do anything else, we're going to quickly weave this little guy in. Now the best part about this guy here, there's a little knot there. What you want to do is go down the back of the stitch of the one next to it and just pull it down and your knot disappears. Now you want to do that nice and tight in a minute, but turn it over and straight down here. This is what I did with the other one. I went down the stitch like so and into the base of that stitch, just being careful not to pull this part too tight or this is what's going to happen. Yeah, I'm going to loosen that up again. All right, you still need it tight enough so you don't see the knot, but not too tight where it's pulling like that. And all you're going to do is weave your blue in between there. Make sure you can't see the needle from the front, yeah? Weave it in once. You could leave it there if you like because we're going to put a lining across the bag, but I'm going to do it another time because for those of you who know me, I'm a little bit of a stickler when it comes to weaving in ends. And that's enough for this one. Yeah. All right. So the same thing with the other end. We're going to do this. I'm going to leave mine because I'm going to do mine off air because my thread is too small. Now I've got 4 holes in my button, which is going to make it awkward because I don't have a lot of yarn, but I'll still use what I can. If you've only got a 2-hole button, even better. Let's see how much I can get out of this. Oh, it'll work. It'll work. All right, so rethread your needle. And we are going to sew our button on before we start lining. I know I said before we'll return and do the lining, but I forgot about the button, as you do. All right, so what you want to do now, before we start sewing, is where do you want your button to go? Now, on the other bag, I put my button directly in the middle, but the middle works a little bit over here for my bag because it's the way we crochet in the round, and I found it crooked. I had to cut it and move it. So my best bid for you is to straighten everything out, place your little guy where you want it, which is not exactly in the middle, by the way, and just place your button there. Now you want to be able to go over your button, but not pulling. Like, you don't want to have your button down here and then it's pulling like that. No, you don't. You want it to be like that, right? Let's have a look. So I might, with mine, make sure my button is sewn on the top of the pink there and through the base of the white. Let's get a nice close up so you can see it. That's the top of the pink and the base of the white. All right, that's how I want my button sewn on. So what I want to do is just face it this way. Remember what I said, the top of the pink and the base of the white. Sorry about my big hands there. There's the top of the pink, right there. And if you're still not happy and you want to make sure you've done the right thing, place it in front and have a look, making sure when you bring this little guy over, it's going to work. Yeah. So there we go. Grab your little thread and pull it through like so. Now what you're going to do, don't pull too much because we didn't knot it, but I'm going to make mine a little bit longer. I got a really long tail. I'm going to leave mine, but just leave enough so that you can, you know, tie it in a knot and weave it in later. But I'm just going to leave my long one on because I don't want to cut it in case I mess this up and have to do it again, which I hopefully won't. Which I hopefully won't. All right, so pop your needle in one of the holes of your button, whether it be the 2-button hole or the 4-button hole, it doesn't matter. Now I've got a 4-button hole, so I'll be playing with mine a little more. So pop your needle through your second button. If you've got a second hole, a second button hole, if you've got a second hole, pop your needle through the second hole and then just go down into the stitch where you want to go. I'm going to be going across, but because I've got 4 holes, I'm going around in a square, if you will, kind of like a square. So I'm going to do that. Hopefully you've only got a 2-hole button. The other button I used was a 2-hole button, which was much better. Don't pull too tight because you still have this thread. And what I do here is I actually pull both of them to make sure that's tightened up. Yeah. All right, that's it, guys. Now, if you want to go over a few more times, you can. I'm not going to. It's not going to come undone. But what we want to do, still holding your needle in your hand, just tying a knot, because we're going to sew that end in, and just tying a knot once, maybe twice. I think twice is good. All right, so what you're going to do is cut that big long tail. You're going to sew that in a minute. You're going to weave it in. And for this one here, we're going to do just that. When we put the lining on, it's going to go up here. So it doesn't matter if you can see the blue thread here. As long as you can't see the blue thread coming out here, make sure you only need to do a little bit because we've tied it in a knot, and I would only do it once, to be honest with you. Pop your needle in, or maybe a second time, bringing your thread through, which is, if I can get it through, and there you go. Hello. All right, so that's what I did so far, and there you go. Now what we're going to do is go back in the other direction. It's because my tail is too long. Different area, of course, making sure you can't see the needle from the front, yeah? So different area, just a second time only. without knotting it again. This is seriously knotting this yarn, but anyway. Now give it a cut. Remember, you're going to have lining over it, so none of that will show. It's showing now, you know, just giving every tug. Grab your other needle, your other thread, like this. We're going to pop this on fast because we're doing exactly the same as what we just did now. All right, I'm going to pop it on fast and off we go. There you go, guys. How about that? That one there worked perfectly off to the fast side. So there's your button attached. Grab your little guy, pop it around your button, and there you go. That's your little guy right there. Any higher and that would have been no good, but at this stage it's perfect. And there's your little picot guy sticking down the bottom there. All right, so that's your button. Let's get on with lining our bag. Alrighty guys, now off air earlier I did iron my piece out, but it didn't iron perfectly. So if yours is like really creased up, make sure you iron it a bit better. Mine's flat enough. I'm going to leave it like that. All right, best thing to do and the easiest way to measure your bag, because it's a flat bag and it doesn't have a very big ridged area here where it's wider, all you need to do is pop your bag down on your piece like that. However, alright guys, my regulars would know that I actually stopped recording there. I'm going to start re-recording using the gold colour. Now the reason is because when you are sewing along your piece and then you just pop it straight in the bag, and let's just say for argument's sake it started to stick out a little bit, which is, you know, can happen because it's a granny, so you straighten it up and put it back. But if you forget, you may find that the area with your little sewing bit and all the bibs and bobs, let's have a look, see if some of the threads will come out. All of that frayed edge sticks out and it looks really bad. Now, it may not happen for you, but it also might happen. So what I'm doing here is I'm going to redo it using the yellow on the green bag, using the French seam. Now this was also suggested to me, I had it in my mind, but it was also suggested by one of our subscribers on our live. If you remember who you are, thank you very much. But I've forgotten all about the French seam because it's been years since I've been doing proper sewing. When I used to do dressmaking all the time, I used to use it on the very soft, elegant wear that would fray like that. As you can see, it kind of frays, yeah? And it actually is better to do the French seam on the sewing machine, heads up. However, we're going to try it today by hand. I've done it by hand once before and it's really not the best, but we're going to try it today just for fun. All right, so let's say for argument's sake, you have your lining this time. When I say this time, on the blue one I didn't do this. This time you're going to grab your measuring tape, yeah? And I'm using this one today because I need to, and I'll show you real quickly, I need to be able to see the 1 centimetre. And I know all the other measuring tapes literally go over that 1 centimetre. It literally, that little thing there covers it, and it really is annoying. For the first part of this bag, you will need 1.5 centimetres. So you will need, I'll pop the inches up there now. There you go. That's the amount you'll need if you're using inches. That's for the first part of the bag, which is this part right here. All right. So you have your lining. What I want you to do, now you don't have to do this. This is the way I'm doing it so that I can save myself from sewing along here. I've just folded my piece up like that, yeah, and I've given myself, so that you understand where I'm at, from here, let's straighten this up a little bit, I think I gave myself 1.5 inches up the top. Oh, come on, Mary, you can do this. Straighten it up 1.5 inches up the top. Not 1.5 inches, let's try that again. 1.5 centimetres. 1.5 centimetres up the top. Might be a tiny little bit bigger than 1.5 centimetres. It's only because it hasn't been straightened out properly, but it is 1.5 centimetres because I measured it before. And that's the length of the front that we want, yeah? When you turn it to the sides, yeah, you're going to do exactly the same. 1 centimetre and a half. From there all the way down, and you may find it's moved a bit. We're going to move it over. I want it to be perfect. Yeah, that's me being fussy. That's me being really fussy. Don't you love it? She's so fussy. 1.5 centimetres. Oh, I'm not even in frame. Hello. 1.5 centimetres. Now, the other thing is, because our bag curves a little bit, if yours is straight, just go down straight. Our bag curves a little bit. So what I want you to do is get to the corner of the bag. Yeah? Grab your pencil and mark your 1.5 centimetres like that. Get a grey lead, any colour, doesn't matter. Chalk, whatever you've got in stock. Yeah, chalk is better if you've got chalk because it comes off easier. If you haven't got chalk, doesn't matter. I just use the measuring tape. I try to keep it straight on this one because this one here, we don't have to cut if we leave it straight, yeah? 1.5 centimetres, all the way up, so you don't need to cut, yeah? All right, but over here, you do need to draw your lines, okay? So once again, it's hard to do it this way, isn't it? There's your curve, there's your little corner. Your 1.5 centimetres goes like that a little bit. And then you bring it over here and use 1.5 centimetres there. Bring it up a little bit, 1.5 centimetres there. And the same all the way up. I'm just going to go like this because, you know, I'll just hopefully do the line straight without using a ruler. You guys can use a ruler later when we're ready to connect the dots, if you will. 1.5 centimetres all the way up. When you get to the top, you're just doing it 1.5 centimetres off the top of the bag, like that. Yeah? And I'll just do that for a minute. All right, so when you're here, you're done. All right, so all you're going to do is grab your grey lead and just connect the dots. Connect the dots. Hopefully yours are a little bit closer. And just rule your line with a ruler if you like, if you want to keep yours perfectly straight with a ruler all the way down. And I don't want to mark my board, so I did it already before there, yeah? And over here, you want to do just that. This one here, maybe I should have got you to do more of 1 centimetre up here, 1.5 centimetres up here, but I'm just going to do that. I'm not going to fuss too much about that area, yeah? Let's get on with what we're going to do next. You're going to grab your scissors, your large scissors. Oh, the light's flashing all over the place. Your large scissors, and you're going to start cutting. And I've got the bad scissors. Oh, no. I need to invest in some really nice sewing scissors. I used to have them years ago when I did sewing, but since then, I haven't. haven't got some. So just keep cutting it. Oh, I did forget one thing. Sorry guys, I forgot to rule the line down this way. But you don't really need to. Just cut along, literally just cut along the same line. my sewing thing came up. Along the same line there, like that. So you don't really need to rule it. You can if you like, if you feel like you want to rule it. But there you go. Now that is your piece, guys. Right there. Now this... oh, no, it's not. I forgot to cut this side. That's a bit weird, isn't it? I forgot to cut this side. So cut that little tiny piece in the corner there. There you go. So now they're sort of even, but not. This one's a little bit too flat on this side. We're going to make that a little even. There you go. All right. So there's your little curve. Yep. And now this is about the only time, let me see if I can bring that down a little bit. There we go. This is about the only time you will ever sew anything you're sewing on the right side of the work when you're doing the French seam, all right? Because what happens is you're sewing on the right side, then you're going to turn it inside, you're going to trim it first, then you're going to turn it inside out, and then you're going to sew along the sides again. So it covers up that little frayed edge and you don't see it. But in the meantime, grab your thread. Thread your needle. I might do this off air, give me one moment. Sorry guys, but that is really hard to thread online with the camera. So what you do is you're grabbing both ends of your threads. I'll show you close up in a minute. It's really hard to see. Let's move that out the way, that might help. It's a little bit better. So you grab both ends of your thread You wrap it around your finger once and you just pull it through. Now if that doesn't work, have a little bit of a wet sponge there, wet your finger, and then do that. You're wrapping it around and you kind of, I'll get you a nice close up again, a bit more so you can see. See that little knot that's forming? I'm wrapping it around the finger and then I'm just spinning the thread. It's really hard to see because it's such a thin thread, like that, and then spinning it and then pulling down. Now if you can't do that, that's fine, just make a few knots, whatever, and then you've got like that there. Yeah, all right, so what I want to do now is start sewing. So if you want, remember how we did 1.5 centimeters before in the round? Not if you want, this is a good idea to do. What you want to do is do 1/2 centimeter. Let's see if we can do it in the inches area. Half of that is around 3/4. I don't know what that is. I'll pop it up on the screen now. Yeah. And what you want to do is maybe do, let's say 3/4 centimeter. Yeah. So on your 7th little tiny stick, or as best you can, right? Whatever, just wherever you're doing it, just do it the same all the way down. How's that sound? All right, so continue doing that. I'm going to pop this on fast so you don't have to sit here and watch me do the whole thing, but you will be seeing me do it as I go along. Let's just bring this down a bit so you can see it. And off we go. All right, so that's one side. You want to do the same on the other. Okay, and once again, I'm going to pop this on fast for you, but I want to show you that that's not going to be on the, let's try a close up, Mary. That's not on the complete, that's actually too small, but it's not on the complete centimetre. It's more on the 3/4 mark of the centimetre, which is there. Let me just make that straight because I've got 2 lines there. I don't want to mess up. Okay, and then you just keep doing the same thing. Go all the way down, doing your 3/4 of that centimetre. Whether it's on the 7mm, whether it's on the 8, whatever it is, just keep consistent. Now I've got a little line on mine now, so I'll just follow that line. That'll teach me. All right, let's pop this on fast and off we go. All right, so that's that. So your job now, guess what, like we did before, is to, let's bring that up a little, is to rule your line. You can use a ruler for this part if you like, if you want to keep your lines nice and straight, to rule your line all the way down. And this is the line you're going to follow when you're sewing. There. All right, now no cutting at all. This is the sewing line. All right, so now you're going to grab that piece of thread that you tied up, make yours longer. I did leave a little disclaimer up the top. Make yours longer because this is going to go halfway and stop. I can just feel it. And what you want to do, you can start anywhere you like, but for this one, because we're not sewing along here, we're just going to sew along there. Yeah. All you need to do is pop your needle under that piece and just through to the top there. The first line, the line, right? Inside though, from the inside of your work, in there and through the line. Pull it through like that. And this has your thread not showing. It doesn't matter anyway because we're going to be cutting and everything later, so don't worry too much about it. Now this is where it gets a little tricky. You're going to see how I didn't go all the way from the beginning. You're going to go back a little bit, just by a tiny, tiny little bit. And I'll tell you why in a minute. And then you're going to go back a little bit more, but right to the edge of that line. Yep. Put all the thread through. And then once you're here, you're going through. You're just going over your line and back up in your line. That's just giving you a bit of reinforcement here. All right, probably don't need it for this part, but anyway. And then from here, you're going over across that line, but you're going to do, You could do larger stitches if you like, but it's like one of those things where you go one step forward, or is it 2 steps forward? No, it's 1 step forward, 2 steps back, that kind of thing. So you got to go back into the last stitch that you just did and then pass over your thread that you've got here. You can make your stitches bigger for this sewing only. For the next sewing, they have to be a little smaller because otherwise everything's going to go through your work. But for this one, it's okay. So now you go back to the old thread if you can find it. I've got my pencil there, so it's hard to see. And then you just go into the next space. And these are spaces that you're creating. They don't have to be big, they don't have to be small, but when we're doing our next sewing, which is turning it in the other way, they have to be smaller, all right? So there you go. And the reason is because hand sewing doesn't lock it all in properly, okay? The sewing machine sewing's a lot better. So notice how I've got to keep pulling this to keep them flat, otherwise you get like bubbles everywhere. Yep. All right, so that's that. I'm not going to sit here and let you watch me do it, but I do want you to have another look. It's 2 steps forward and then 1 step back. Was it 1 step forward, 2 steps back? 1 step forward. Come on, Mary, you can do this. And then you're going right back. It might be 1 step forward, 2 steps back. Doesn't matter. Going back into the other spot, and then you're starting a new spot. So you don't go into the stitch that you just did there. You're going over it like that. The way I used to do it when I was young, and I'll talk about that in a minute, but doing it this way means you're filling up all the gaps. So you're going into the last stitch you did. Where is it? I'll look on the camera actually because I can see it now. Into the last stitch, and then you're creating a new stitch. All right, I'll show you the way I used to do it when I was younger. And I mean younger, we're talking when I was, I don't know, 13, 14. I used to do the whole row of sewing, big gaps, and then on the way back I'd do smaller gaps in between the big gaps, right? That just takes too long. This way is a lot quicker, all right? So I'm not going to sit here and let you watch me do this. I want you to do that all the way up, get to about, I don't know, a little tiny bit at the end. Don't close off there, just get to the end, and then I'll meet you there once you're done. Alrighty guys, here we are at the end of the section, right? And just so that you can see what I mean by fraying, check that out right there. All those little edges, I'll get closer even. All these little edges here, they're all fraying. This is why you need some sort of a French seam or some sort of seam that will have all that tucked in, yeah? All right, so we're here. Right at the very end, I said don't complete it, get to the end. Now just go backward and forward like normal. I think I've left my little crooked there. We'll straighten it up a bit, right there. So you go backward and forward like normal, but as close as you can get to the edge, yeah. Pull your needle through again. Right, oh, that's not working. Oh, by the way, I did have yarn chicken around here somewhere. Can you believe it? That's why I put the right amounts up the top for you. All right, and so just one more time, you get as close as you can to the edge. Pull your needle through like so, and making sure you pull up the thread. Then you're going to turn your work and just go over the edge, yeah? So you're going over the edge to the other side, just pop your needle into the other side, like that. And all that's doing is closing up. Just don't pull it too tight up the top there. I've got to pull some thread through though. Yep, because you don't want it to cinch up. You just want to keep it nice and neat, but closed. Yeah, so that is that. Let's see if I can get it down. That's better. No, it's not coming down for me. Oh, there we go. So from here, oh, I'm sorry, we have to actually do another close-up. I'm going to show you how to cast off. All right. So here you want to bring your needle back wherever you are. You just want to bring it back into the front there, and just right next to your stitch, you want to lift up a little thread like that. Just a little bit, a lot, whatever you want, doesn't matter. So grab your little tail and wrap it around your needle, I don't know, 2-3 times, yep. And then just pull your needle through like so, gently, not too hard. And then you're going to do it one more time. right as close to the stitching as you can. I'm trying to remember all my sewing tricks from years ago. If you didn't know this, guys, I used to sew for like 10-15 years. I made all my outfits, I made all my kids' outfits. You do it a couple of more times there. I made everything from years ago. I don't do it anymore. I do have a sewing machine somewhere, but I keep hiding it up the top of the cupboard somewhere and I can't get it. So there you go. Then you get your scissors and you give it a cut close to but not on it. Yeah, and that's one side done there. I'll bring that out. There you go. That's one side done. That's the back and that's the front. All right, so what I want you to do is do exactly the same for the other side. Now, the other side obviously goes this way. If this is too awkward for you, you can start from the top edge, which I'm going to do, but you must keep it straight up the top, or when you get down here, it's going to buckle, yeah? So make sure everything is flat and straight. Alrighty guys, so here I am at the end of this side here. All right, now we ended up at the base of the bag on this one because we started on the top, but if you ended up down there, do the same as before, yeah? All right, so I'm still going to go back and go one more step just closer to the stitch. And there you go. And then I still have to finish off. Sorry guys. Still have to finish off, get closer to the stitch, real close to that stitch, and I think I accidentally knotted it there, but don't worry. You don't have to worry about that, don't do that. All right, so once you're close to the stitch, I might do it a little bit more. You can go this way and then go backwards, it doesn't matter. So we'll go this way, and then you can come back. Like we're on this end, we're going to come back this way. So I'm just going to pop my needle back in there, making sure not to do this. Okay, and just pull my threads through. Now I'm going to find this is going to tangle because of all the threads down here, so don't pull too tight. Yeah, once you pull it through, you turn it any way you like. It doesn't matter, you can do it the back, the front, doesn't matter, either way. You're going to start making your knots, so you just once again pop your needle close to the stitching somewhere, not this way, not on your work way, just on the edge, but not too far out because we're going to cut this later. This is going to be cut here a bit later. So if you've done yours too far out, you can't cut yours as much and it's going to be a little bit bulky in your bag. So just twist it around a few times, 2, 3, 4, it doesn't matter. Enough so that it knots, and my thread, I didn't pull the thread through properly. Let's try this one. It's not that one, it's the other one. There it is. All right. All right, so there we go. We're going to pop our needle through one more time, wrap it a few more times around, and just pop your needle through. And you're done. So give your thread a cut, not too much, just, a little bit, leave a little bit. No one's going to see that anyway. That'll be inside your bag, yeah? And that's one side, and that's the other side. Now grab your bag real quickly. Pop your bag right there. Now this bag will stretch a little bit, giving you plenty of room. So that when you turn your bag over, that is where you're going to sew anyway. So don't stress too much. But what you need to do, if you find that you're happy with this length of your bag, that's fine. But for me, I'm going to cut it a little closer. I want to get it as close as I can so that... Oh, maybe not, that's probably too close. I'll just cut it a little bit too close so that I don't have it too bulky when I'm sewing the other side. All right, so now that we've done that, we're going to open up our bag like so and turn it inside out. Like that, all the way, all the way. Now make sure that you are bringing everything through, that you don't have knots. Being careful not to pull too tight or your finger will go through your threading, because we didn't do that thread real tight, did we? So just pop your finger in and just make sure you've pushed everything right up to where it's supposed to go. Straighten it all out. Yep. Now what you're going to do is you're going to sew along there now. You get your little measuring tape, you do your 3/4 centimetre one, so again, there, all the way up, your 3/4 centimetre, or actually you could probably get away with 1/2 centimetre now. In fact, if you want, just being wary, make sure, we're going to do this together anyway, we're going to sew one side and then we'll pop it in the bag. Make sure it still fits your bag. Yeah, make sure it still fits your bag, all right? So head off on your own, rule your lines on both sides, and I'll meet you back here once you're done. All right, what I did was I just did the one side for now. I'm going to do the other side later just to get you started, because what I'm going to do is just show you this side and then you're going to head off on your own and you're going to do that side because you've already done the 2 steps forward, the 1 step back. So what you're going to do, see that little thread there? That doesn't matter. That's the thread that we used to start with. We're going to pop, let's get a close up, our needle from the top this time. So that little knot will stay on the inside of your bag, and when we turn it through the other way, you won't see the knot. I'm hoping the knot part makes sense, yeah? So now this time you're just pulling it through the whole piece, like so. And once again, I didn't make a long enough tail, but anyway, never mind. So you're going to go back through the top, a bit closer to the edge. It's not close enough. To the edge, yeah. Just pull it through, and once again, you're going to go over your top edge. It's just to lock it all into place up the top so that it doesn't come undone. We're going to work on this top edge anyway, so it doesn't really matter later. Sorry about all the little tail ends here. Just don't worry about them. We're just going to go around them, and we're just going to pop a little stitch across that way there. Just go through a little bit, do a few little ones, a few extra little ones there. What I want you to do, because this is the part where when you put something in your bag, let's say you put a pencil in your bag, if you make these stitches here, that's a little bit crooked there, isn't it? I'll fix that. If you make these stitches here too big, your pencil will go through your bag, through your lining. So with this particular seam line, that has to be really tiny stitches. So it's going to take you a little while. Now, if you want to keep yours big, by all means. If you're only going to have big items in your bag, that's fine. But look at this, how small that is. That's your 2 steps forward. That's not even your 1, yeah? That's your 2 steps forward and your 1 step back. And it's only a little tiny bit over your 1. See, there's your 1 there, right there, and it's right there. Before we were doing it quite big, the stitches, but now we're doing it very, very small. Again, to lock everything in place so you don't end up, having holes in your lining. Okay, now this is going to take you like forever. I'm really, really sorry, guys. But it's going to take you forever. So what I want you to do, you're doing exactly what we did on the other side. You're doing it here. Go along here, get to here, do your little knot on the edge, cut your work or make your little knots, you wrap around the needle a few times, then draw your line across here, do your little, sew across the edge, do your little knots, yeah? And then meet me back here and we'll talk about what we're going to do next. Alrighty guys, so we ended up doing both these sides, yep, and this is a make or break of whether or not you cut enough before. You don't need to turn it in the other way to find out, but just have a look. We're not turning it in the other way at all, and make sure a lot of that thread is not visible. So let me give you a close-up. I can see one sticking out right now. See that one right there? If I pulled that, that could actually pull the work. Don't do that. Just give it a trim, and it will hide into your piece. But if you've got all your threads sticking out up here and you've got a piece of the material sticking out here, you didn't cut it close enough. All right, on that side and on this side, you may find a few extras. No, you can open the whole thing and check it if you like. I'm not going to bother. There's a little tiny bit there. I'm not going to bother. That will disappear as the bag is worn anyways, so I'm not going to worry about it. All right. In the meantime, we now have to sort out the top bit. Now, normally I had played with it a little bit before, so we've got some thread marks. Normally we wouldn't do this when we are attaching to a bag, but because of this bag being so gappy, and you can see the stitching, we're going to do this step as well. This is where you will need your safety pins, not your safety pins, your pins, not your safety pins, your normal pins. All right, so I'm going to start you off with this part. Now, what you might need to do, and it's probably I would suggest it as well, when you're working here, find which way you want to keep your little side seam and leave both sides the same way, but iron it. So I'm not going to iron it because I don't have the time right now. I'll probably do that off air. So when you've ironed it and it's nice and flat, fold it over, grabbing your measuring tape again. And once again, we left 1.5 inches here, all right? But we're not going to do the whole 1.5 inches. What we want to do is 3/4 of our inch. Remember, like we did before, not 1.5 inches, 1.5 centimetre. Hello, we want to do 3/4 of our 1.5 centimetre. Where my line I've been drawing on all over the place. Let's get a close up so you can see. In fact, I might not do it here because it's only going to confuse you a little bit. I'll just do it in the middle so you can see the fold over and how much to fold over. So you want to fold it over to the same measurement that we've been doing, like the 3/4 of that 1 centimetre right there. All right, so that's what you want to do with your piece, folding it over like that and popping your pins in it like so. All right, so you're going to do that all the way across your piece, just that small amount, because later we're going to fold it over again when we're ready to attach to our actual bag, which is very, very close now. So we're almost there, guys. We're almost on home stretch. So folding it over to match your 3/4 of your whatever it is, 1 centimetre or whatever we did before. I can't remember what it was. I think it was 3/4. I've got it marked on my my measuring tape anyway, only because the pencil knocked it, so now it's like permanently marked. I'll have to see if I can rub it out with an eraser later. And just keep doing that in the round. I'm not going to sit here and let you watch me do this. Go ahead and do that. Cut yourself a long piece of thread, like the same measurement as before. Get this all set up and meet me back here and we'll talk about what we're going to do next. Alrighty guys, so here we are. I've done the whole piece. It's all ready. So I'm just sitting it this way because I've already pinned myself twice, as you do. Every time I work with pins, this happens, yeah? Every time I work with pins. All right, so make sure you've got your little knot on your thread again. And once again, you can pass your thread, your needle, sorry, just under your work. Like not between the whole thing, just under it, like that. I mean, not through, just under for now, okay? Under for now, all the way through like that. So what we're going to do now is we're going to just go in like we were doing before, 1 step forward, 2 steps back. Was it 2 steps forward, 1 step? What was it? 1 step forward, 2 steps back. You can pull out your pin if that's going to annoy you. Like I can already see it becoming an issue. I'm going to pull this pin out because it's just awkward right now. There you go. Just that one there. You don't need to pull it out. I did it because I found it a little bit awkward. Yeah. Try to keep it as straight as possible. I've lost my needle. Keep it as straight as possible, yeah? So you're going, maybe when going over the knots, do small ones. Oh, hang on, we haven't done the 2 step forward, was it? 1 step back. There we go. And just try and keep it tight. This part here is going to be awkward because it's right on the top part, the thickness. This is why I'm doing this part with you. The rest you can do yourself, yeah? Because you know this part. You know how to do it, yeah? All right, so once again, 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Just do small ones because it's fairly thick. And I still want to keep it in the thickness first, like so. Yeah, and then go back into it and drop right out of the thickness and into the thin part. It's really thick for me. I think this is the wrong needle, by the way, guys. You really should use a thinner needle for this part. when I say thinner needle, see this part here is relatively thick. It should be a thin needle, which I've got, but you know, I don't know where it is. It's like anything. Yeah, I put things away and I say, keep it there for safekeeping, and it's so safe that even I can't find it. There you go. All right, so just keep doing, you know this part, guys. 1 step forward, 2 steps back. You can make this part bigger. That's okay. That's not a problem. But don't make it too big, yeah, otherwise you can see that like it's really noticeable. Yeah. So don't make them too big and don't make them too small. 2 steps forward, 1 step back. This one's an even one all the way through. And I don't think I need you to watch me do this. I think you know what you're doing here. But when you get to your pins, once you get to this one here, you can, we'll do it now. It'll take us a couple of seconds to do it. Oh, once again, my tutorials are going a long time. Sorry, guys. But I do want to be thorough on these things. And people always say, oh, gee, your tutorials are long. But it's because I want to be thorough and I don't want you to make any mistakes. So I try to be as thorough as I can. And try not to sew these bits in like I'm doing. I'll have to cut them out in a minute. Just be careful, yeah? And then there's 1 step back and so on. So I'm up to the pin. It's really awkward for me. I'm going to take that pin out. I don't know what it's like for you, but for me it's awkward. And just continue along the way. And I'm going to cut all these threads in a minute. Just continue doing that all the way around. When you get here, do your 2 steps forward, 1 step back really tight. I mean, really small, yeah, because it's going to be very tight. Okay, so do your small ones there. Maybe it might help to just go through once, go through there. Go through the second time, like in and out, like one at a time, rather than the way I'm doing it, yeah? All right, so go ahead, complete this round, get to the end right here just before we attached our thread, and I'll talk about what we're going to do next. Alrighty guys, so okay, we've got to the end of this round. Okay, now let's get a close-up right here. Alright, so I have, I don't know, 1 more step back and 1 more in there to go. Well, get excited guys, we've got 1 more thing to do and that's it. And then just keep going into your stitch where you first started, like so. And then from there, just do 1 more of that really thick stitch. I'm going to go in because I've noticed it never went through to my side. This one did, but this one didn't. It doesn't matter because it's tight anyway, so it won't be seen, sorry. And just pull it through there. See how tight that is? And when you're here, you're done. All you're going to do is do what we did before, where we're going through a few stitches, or through a little gap or whatever, and just do that. Make your knot. Go into the next section. You don't have to go through both thicknesses, just the top layer, yeah? And again, twice. Not too much with this because this is going to be tucked under, and I'll explain that in a minute. So there you go. All right, so now you're wondering, wait a minute, it's still too big for my bag, okay? And I'll explain that to you in 1 moment. Let's just pop it in the bag for the sake of popping it in for now. Well, we're going to have to pop it in anyway, so you may as well, let's bring that out a bit so you can see what I'm doing. You may as well pop it in anyway. All right, so it goes in like that, and you are making sure that your rounded edges are down the bottom on both sides of your bag. And you might be thinking, oh my gosh, it's way too big. Well, that was the idea of folding this over. See, if you didn't fold this over and then fold it over 1 more time when we're about to attach, all these little bits of threads can stick out of your granny stitch. That's what happens when you're using granny stitch, yeah? That can all stick out, right? So what we're going to do is get to the middles. That's the best part to do it, the middles. When I say the middle of each side. So that's the middle of your bag, and that's the middle. Now this bag is a little different than the one you've got. Yours will be kind of tight, so it'll be hard to find your middle. You may have to work from in there, right? I just changed the style of this one, just for fun. You know, that's what I do occasionally. Just change the styles. I go halfway through things and then change them. Now the idea is to pop your piece. You're going to fold it over at the seam that we just made. Oh, that wasn't close enough. Let's try that again. That's the seam we've just made that we just sewed, yeah? You're going to fold it in half and face it on your piece. Now, you want it on your piece where, it's going to have to be a bit lower, where when you fold this in half, it sits right there, like on the single crochet row stitch, your last row, right there, okay? Or double crochet or whatever that is, yeah? So that's where you want yours to sit. Now, when it comes to this sort of thing, it is not a best way to do it like this with your pins. The better way is to do it downwards, like that. So you're placing your pins there. And don't place too many pins all at once or you can't move, yeah? So you might need to sort of give yourself a little bit of space between your pins. This will become a little tight and a little awkward work around it, because if you do it the other way, you're likely to pin yourself quite a few times like I've done in the past. We won't go there. So you just keep going down like so, making sure you have tucked this under at the seam line. So your seam line right there should be at just beneath your stitch. That's probably a little too high. Let's see if that's dropped a bit. That's better. So it should be just beneath your stitch. That seam line. See that seam line there that we just did? Should be just beneath your stitch. All right, so I'm going to pop this on fast. You keep going in the round, all the way around, until we get to the next side, and then wait for me there. All right, so off we go. Alrighty, so here we are at that middle section right there, making sure your middle matches up. If your lining is a little tight, you can actually work around it. If it's a little loose, it's going to bubble like that. If it's a little tight, you can work around it with your crochet piece, but you want your middles to match up right there. But you also want to have it straight. So just keeping your work straight, grabbing your needle. I'm sorry, let's try your pin. This is not a very good pin. And you know what? It's very thick here. Let's just put it before the thickness, I think. We'll just put it before. Oh, it's really thick here. Anyway, just keep going in the round. Alright, so it's very, very awkward around the handles, and you'll find it even more awkward because your handles are attached up here a little bit, because with this bag I changed, like I said, but just, you know, work around it, yeah? Work around it. Anyway, there we go. I'm going to leave that piece there because I'm going to start working there, right? But that's what your bag should look like right now, because we are going to start sewing. Now you have a choice here. There are two ways you can sew your piece together. Now if you were using green, you could, and I'll just use it with a needle, just a normal needle, one that's not rusted. Oh dear, that's no good. So if you had a normal needle, you can pop your needle through there, pull your thread through, then when it's through, you turn it around this way and you pop it down that way, keeping it nice and straight along the edges there. So if you had a green, but if you're like me and have yellow, okay, you can do it another way. Now this is the way that's, oh, it's a little bit fiddly, but it's the only way I use, okay, when hand sewing. All right, I was going to use that, but I'm not going to. What I'm going to do is take that out because I want to start from there, right, and pop this here. I really want to start from in the handle. So your handle will be like that. It'll be a little bit awkward for you to sew, but you can do it. I know you can, yeah? In the meantime, maybe you can start from over here. I'm just going to start from here, and I want to pop my thread, my needle on the inside first, but maybe not on the really thickness, but over here. and just kind of close to the edge, yeah? So it's not going through the wool yet, or cotton, or whatever you used to make your bag with. It's not going through to crochet. This is going to happen. Hopefully maybe we should have put the pins the other way, or then we would have pinned ourselves. So pop that little tiny thread down there, if you can get it down. Get it down, get in there, you naughty thread. All right, it's going to hide in a minute, she says, and she's not sure. Just do another top stitch, a little bit higher than what you've got there. Let's move everything out the way so you can see. I'll bring this up a little bit. That's better. All right, so we're here. We still have a little tiny bit left. Just pop your needle in that little tiny bit, right on the edge, there. Not through that top thread there, silly girl. Oh, look what I've done, look what I've done. There we go. I'm so clumsy. I'm such a klutz, yeah? Clumsy. So once you pull your thread through and you don't have dramas like I just did, and I'll show you a way to stop that from happening, and that's to keep your thumb over your thread. But first, we just want to get started, right? So we're here, and this is where it can get a little tricky. You want to get into your cotton here, but you want to make small stitches. You don't want big stitches, and I'll explain that in a minute. Just pop all this over here so it doesn't get tangled on things. Popping your thread through your hands. It's a little fiddly, but it stops it from getting tangled, yeah? She says that she's not really sure. So that's how it used to do it in the old days. There you go, see? It doesn't get tangled. All right, so when you do that, you give it a gentle tug and you do the same thing. It's very thick here, so it's awkward. And you're getting just the edges. And because it's really thick, you might need a thimble for this bit, but we'll see. Ouch. Oops. And I didn't do it this time again. Hold it in your hands, the thread, and then pull it through. So it doesn't get caught on your pins. And then once again, you're finding some stitches anywhere and you're pulling it through. Now, you try not to let your stitches show from the front, but the other thing too is you want to keep it small stitches for this particular part of your work. Not big ones, yeah? You want to keep little ones because just tangled the whole thing up. Because you don't want... It still did it, look, it still got caught. You don't want it to be, to have lots of big gaps. When you're sewing by hand, that's what happens. You have a lot of gaps, all right? So you want to keep your stitches really, really small. And it's just not working for me. Tighten it up a little like that and keep them small. And you're going into your piece. Again, very close to the last stitch you just did on your green, on your crochet. I'm going to take out that pin because it's annoying me. So that side doesn't get tangled very much, which is good. Do it slowly if you like, and it stops it from tangling, she says, as she's being tangled. It's just when you see these little heads of the pins, just pop your thumb over it, and go right into the very next crochet stitch there, making sure you can't see the needle and you can't see it, which is good. And you're going to do the same thing. Look at this. See that? That's going to pull. Here they are. So it's a little awkward. I can't do this on here, guys, because it's just really going to annoy me. Listen to me, I'm so fidgety, it's going to annoy me. But that's pretty much all you're doing, going through the top edge of your lining. Yeah. And then through a thread of your crochet. Very small stitches across. Now it's going to take you a while, right? And if it starts to catch on your pins and you're getting annoyed by it like me, lay it flat on the table and work this way. All right, I'm working up so that you can see, and that's really annoying, but just work along the side that way and keep your threads this way. All right, so I'm not going to let you sit here and watch me get all frustrated. Keep going in the round, removing your pins as you go. Maybe get to that second side. No, I think you can do the whole thing. Keep sewing in the round, keep going all the way, as long as you don't move your pins out until you're ready to get to the very next pin, you should be okay. Get to this last pin right here, the very last pin. My stitches are there, yeah? So get to that very last pin and I'll meet you here once you're done. Alrighty guys, my thread kind of snapped and I've been working this way, but don't worry about it, that doesn't concern you. And within moments of about 15 minutes, the weather has turned. So it looks a bit weird and dark in here right now, but that's because the weather turned. It went from being bright and sunny to dark, dark, dark clouds. So there you go. All right, so I'm at the end and I asked you to get to your last pin. Now, if yours didn't match up, then you either did yours a little too tight or a little too loose from the beginning when we, first started sewing. Mine kind of just made it. Like you can see a tiny little bit of looseness in the crochet, but it kind of just made it. Now what I want to do, I still got quite a bit here to go. I've still got all that to go, yeah? So what I want to do is just keep going, and I might pop this on fast. So we are almost there. This is the gap I have right there. So what I want to do though, I still want to get through, that went through a bit too thick there, yeah? Some of the thickness. Now you're going to see the lining through the bag because this is a crochet bag, a granny stitch bag. Oh, we're almost there because that's it. That very next stitch is there, all right? So we could start casting off now if we wanted to, but I want to go further into the handle of the bag. Now with the other blue bag that you have, guys, you may not have started with the handle because it was a little bit awkward. So no matter where you are, just get as close into the next, sort of move over from the start from where you started from, to move over to a little bit further. That just reinforces the area, so you know it's not going to come undone. Now when you're sewing, when you're closing off, look, it's just happened again, look at that. I'm going to pause the camera for a minute just to rethread. All done. Now this wouldn't happen to you because it happened to me because I had a knot halfway through and I pulled at it and it snapped the cotton. So I'm not knotting mine anymore, I'm just leaving it loose. But this was the actual last bit. So when you're knotting your work like you do at the end where we wrap the thread around our needle a few times, first go into the crochet bit and do that. So grab your thread, wrap it around your needle a few times and pull it through like so in the crochet bit. Then go into your material like a normal stitch and pull it through like normal. And now you're going to do that ending in the lining, yeah? And do a little bit, once again, I don't want mine to come undone, and mine will, so just bear with me, guys. Remind me not to do any lining on the channel anymore. Do you like that? Okay, wrap it around a couple of times, 2 times, 3 times, or whatever you want. Be careful not to do it too many times or it will knot. This is going to knot for sure, but anyway, or it will knot. And there you go, it knotted. Oh no, it's not too bad. All right, then once again, you're going to go into, this is overdoing it. You can cut it now if you like, but I don't want to. You're going into your crochet, just being careful not to see the needle from the front, and you're going to do the knot again. All right, so there you go, pull that through. All right, so now you're just going to go back into that crochet stitch one more time, knot again, and guess what? You're done. If you really want to do it again, you can go into the material, but I think we're done. We're going to give that a cut as close as we can, not too close, but there you go. And your lining, my dears, is complete. And let me find the blue one for you so you see the difference. That's sticking out with all that thread like that sticking out. If this was to stick out, which it won't now because of the way it's been sewn, and even if it did, it would be just the material and no threads. Yeah, I hope that made sense. It won't now because this one, and actually this one fits way much better than the other one did. Now what you do is just button up your little guy right here, pat yourself on the back, because this took us like forever. Well, it took me forever. I don't know what it took you, because we did a lot of it off air. And I tell you what, it was like forever and ever and ever. But look at the way it fits nicely there. And I must admit, I have taken this undone. So it's off its piece now. But even this one was fitting really poorly. All right. But you would have had your center section like that. So it would have been difficult for you to have sewn in, but you would have managed, really. You still had to do it. You still have to sew in like that. See how bad that one is? See how bad that is? Whereas this is really neat, with the odd little knot that we just made, but really neat. Really poor and really neat. All right, so I hope that made sense. For those of you who are joining us new and you would like to crochet this bag, I've left a link to this bag itself in a description box down below. Actually, I've left a link to the bag playlist, and you will see this, and you'll see first the squares on their own, and then you'll see the actual bag with the handle. And then I said we're complete, but we didn't complete it because a few months later we decided to pop some lining in, and I'm loving the yellow in this one. This one will be pink once it's done. I really do love it. So once it's done, it'll be nice. So I'll do that separately off air, and that one's going to be done with one of those tiny little mini sewing machines, you know, the little hand ones. I just bought one cheap the other day. I don't know how that's going to go, but anyway, thank you very much for joining me. Don't forget to like, subscribe and share, and do all the wonderful things that you guys always do for me. And don't forget also to join us on our lives at 4 p.m. Wednesday afternoons, usually 10 a.m. Saturday mornings, but for the next 4 weeks it's going to be 10 a.m. Friday mornings, just for the next 4 weeks. That's Melbourne Australia time, of course, guys. Marry that up with your country, because I'm going to be heading off to Pipeworks Market here in Melbourne, Australia, to clear off some of my tutorial projects that I've created over the past 6-7 years, plus more. Thank you for watching, and ciao for now.